Hello guys. I was gonna make this video on my Instagram, but I didn't want to do a live because when I'm on live and people come on or they comment, I get really distracted. Um, I don't know why consecutive, but I do. I get very, very distracted and I just lose my whole train of thought. And Instagram's also, I think that they're cutting videos off after 15 minutes, and I tried to make a 15 video and I was just like, it wasn't fun, it wasn't easy. I think it's gonna be more like 20 minutes. So here we are. I'll post a link on my Instagram, but I wanted to come on and talk about generators, specifically manifesting generators. I wanted to talk about the responsibility of the generator and the man-gen strategy and multitasking versus being multidirectional and why we do it and if it's required. So let's get in, shall we? I think that, first of all, a lot of the information, especially the information on Instagram and similar being taught, it's not wrong per se, but there's a lot of not knowing why those things are necessary and if they're even necessary. Like, something that people always talk about is manifesting generators are multipassionate. They love to go in lots of different directions. Well, why is that? And so in this video, I want to talk about what I'm coming to discover. And I'm very much still embodying this and learning this myself through trial and error. But these are some of the findings that I've come across, and I hope that they may help you too. So, first of all, okay, let's look at what we've learned the man-gen strategy is. So the generator strategy is to respond. If you have emotional authority, then of course that's an extra layer of waiting out for the neutralist point of your wave. And if you have a manifesting generator strategy, then there are lots of different variations of this, right? Sometimes you hear that it is to initiate if you have a sacral yes. We hear that you can initiate if your sacral is engaged. We also hear that it's to respond and then to inform. We hear that it's to have something to respond to and then you can respond and then you can initiate when you get stuck. So there's lots of different voices. There's a lot of different information. Here is, out of all of the strategies that, or rather slightly different variations of the same strategy that I have played around with, the one that by far has, one, made the most sense in real life, but also the deeper I dig into the classical texts and the lectures of human design, appears to make sense from what Raz said. But I also want to make it very, very clear that in my life too, enacting this out has made the most sense, purely to respond. And by the way, I don't have emotional authority. I'm not emotionally defined. So I'm very much operate in the now. Now, let's look at the dynamics of the MG. So first thing to really know, and really, really know it, is that because we have the defined sacral, we're generators. All generators are generators, right? We have the sacral, and that is all always going to trump the motorized throat. Now, in my opinion, I don't think that man-gens should initiate. And I think the reason why we do initiate is because we get impatient, we get restless, and we know that we can. But just because you have the capacity to do something doesn't make it a part of your strategy, and it doesn't mean it's going to work out for you. However, something to take into account that I think is maybe, I don't want to say a bit of a gift, but something that is inherent in us is that we can respond very quickly. But the thing is, responding quickly versus initiating are not the same things, although they can look like the same thing. Now, because we can respond very quickly, I would say that that is a good reason to adopt the informing aspect of the manifesto's strategy. So let me give you an example in my life. This happened very recently, a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago. So I knew for a while that I wanted to move cities. I was living in my hometown, and I knew that I wanted to come up to a different city. And now, what I could have done was be like, okay, I want to move, therefore I'm going to initiate this process, and I'm going to look for places to live, I'm going to look for a job, I'm going to try and sort my life out and try and make it happen, right? That would be initiating. Whereas and by the way, I have done that many times before. Whereas what I did this time was, okay, I'm only going to move when I have something to respond to. So I knew what I wanted, I held that intention within me, and then I waited, and I got something to respond to. I had, one of the things that I had to respond to was, I had people message me and say, hey, you should come up to Auckland, blah, blah, blah. I had conversations. And then when I responded very, very quickly. Like within, I would say, the conversation that I had that I would say I responded to, that day I'd found a house to live, and I booked a flight the next day, and I'd booked it for like a few days out. So I responded very quickly, and because you're doing that, it's pretty important, in my opinion, to inform people as soon as you can. As soon as you're thinking about it. I actually, for example, my mom, I told her that I was planning to do it before it happened, because I simply knew that when I had something to respond to, it would happen very fast, because it's the way that it always looks for me. So we do move quickly, and I do think that that is a part of our design that really makes us a different breed. When we're operating correctly, it is okay and it is healthy to constantly, especially if you don't have emotional authority, to just be like, yes, now. But notice the subtle difference between initiating, right? There's still the waiting aspect. And which direction do I want to go in? Okay. Initially, we're very much here to do what generators do, right? Now let's look at multitasking. Another thing that we hear is that manifesting generators are very proficient multitaskers. And now, a few things. I don't think your type can give you enough information as to if you're a good multitasker or not. And I think that multitasking is very much an illusion. It's very much an illusion, even for us men gens. Me personally, I have an active brain and a strategic mind. This means that when I'm focusing on something, I'm literally absorbing and penetrating and completely transfixed on one thing at a time. And everything outside of my focal point, it's like it was never even there, right? It's like it never happened. I can switch that focus quite quickly, but I can't retain or take in anything that I'm not actively focusing on. I also have consecutive determination, specifically about one thing at a time. And that also applies, it doesn't just apply to food, although very much so food. It's ingestion of stimuli in regards to anything, in regards to music, in regards to listening to podcasts and studying. It's in regards to anything that you take in. And God, another thing is I have open head, open ajna, which means I will forget everything. Anything and everything. I need to write everything down in lists because I'm just like over my head. So for me personally, I would say that the biggest is my determination, consecutive determination. I'm not meant to multitask. So it's a real what's the word I'm looking for? It's not good. I think that it's a bit of a misconception that all man-gens can multitask and should be multitasking, which definitely not the case. Now, let's have a look at a slightly different view, which is being multidirectional. Now, this is a big thing that I'm experimenting with in my life at the moment. And I'm happy to offer more clarity when I get there myself. But I would say that manifesting generators are typically multidirectional. Now, how this can look would be pursuing several different hobbies and career paths at once, right? So being multidirectional may look like studying physics at university while having a floristry business, while also working in your family-owned tire shop. And taking all of those paths somewhere, right? But multitasking to me is kind of more like has the connotation of doing lots of different things, but at the exact same point in time, which I don't think has anything to do with being a manifesting generator. I think that it's just a random piece of information that was floating around and that somehow has become mainstream. Now let's look at something else. This is the bit that I'm still umming and ahhing about, which is just because it's something that occurs, does it mean that it's healthy and correct for you? So we know about the generator plateau, right? We know that generators get to a point in their career or on their projects or whatever it is where they feel stuck. Now, typically, what do? They get frustrated and they wait it out and then they move to the next level. That frustration it can mean a lot of things, but one thing that it is typically known to mean is that you are ready for the next level of mastery. A manifesting generator is more likely to be like, whoop, I'm done here, and just jump off and go somewhere else. This can give the illusion of being multidirectional when actually we're just impatient. Because, again, no matter how you're a manifesting generator, right? Whether you have the 2034, or if you have the money line, or if your sacral goes up through your G center into your throat, if you have the motorized throat, you're doing. You can do in the moment. You can always act. You have that capacity. Just because you can, I don't think it means it's always a good idea. Now, I'm personally very, very multipassionate. I've worked in a lot of different industries, and I have a really hard time in my mind knowing what I want to do, because there's so many things that I want to do, but none of them is enough, right? So it's definitely something that I'm playing around and experimenting with. So I think that it's correct and healthy to a degree for a manifesting generator to be able to do a lot of things, as long as you're aware of that phenomenon that is quite often happening, where you get to the plateau and then you're just like, screw this. I know that I can move faster than this is progressing, and I'm not here for it. If that is why you're switching paths so often, then I would bring that to your attention and I would look at it, because that's something that I've been guilty of too. If you just genuinely have the curiosity and passion for a lot of different areas, and you're willing and able to go through the plateaus, then I would say that perhaps that's very healthy for you, and that's correct for you and your energy. We do have a lot of energy, and we can move very, very quickly. So it is very, very easy to get very impatient. Now, I kind of just want to briefly touch on the responsibility of the generator. So remembering that we're very much here, we're exactly here to do the same work as the generator is. We just have a different way of getting there, the skipping steps, but even if our process looks a little bit different, it is essentially the exact same purpose and the exact same reason and way of using our energy to interact with others in the world. So let's think about the purpose of a generator. Again, considering that this can go so much deeper, like into your profile and your incarnation cross and, all different things. But just speaking under an umbrella for now, the purpose of the generator is to find and do work that they enjoy. People say to generators, do what lights you up, right? True. Very true. Also a very blanket statement, right? Like, why? I always thought it was so weird. Maybe I'm going on a rant, but whatever. I have all the time in the world. Why do work that lights you up? Well, first of all, because the generator is selfish. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean that in a bad way. It's just true. We're here to discover ourselves. We're here to make ourselves happy and to look inwards. Whereas the other types are about other things, like getting to know the other, getting to influence the other, whereas the generator is very much concerned with itself. Again, not a bad thing. So let's look at something really interesting though. Why do work that lights you up, besides the obvious fact that it makes you happy? Which is a good thing, because we want to be happy, right? What's the point in living out your purpose if you're miserable? Screw that. If the generator has an open and enveloping aura, and the generator is also somewhat 70% of the population, this means that there's a lot of generators. It also means that we have very, very big auras that are enveloping and pulling others in to us, right? So consider the idea of a completely generated field of generator auras. No matter where you're walking at pretty much any given time, especially if you're in a hardscape environment, you cannot escape it. You cannot escape the generator aura. It's everywhere. You know, you can really feel the generator aura, especially if you're a generator, manifesting generator, and you're watching this, like you probably are, then you probably don't notice the generated field that much because you're in it, you're a part of it, right? But consider this. Consider if you meet a projector and you feel very, very seen and they penetrate right into you. You feel that and you notice that. So imagine what it feels like to be another energy type and be aware of it. Because even the reflector who has a resistant aura, or the manifester who has a, closed aura, they're still aware of it. They still feel it. And so we have a responsibility. If I've heard other types say, and I can feel this myself, I can feel it myself, but I can only imagine what it must be like to be another type. You know, when you're in the presence of a generator who is just so lit up and they love their work and it's like their whole body just hums and they have this delicious gooey feeling to them and you just it just feels so good. Right? Like, you know, watching someone who used to be kind of maybe not miserable, but and then watching them become their happiest, highest self and lit up, it sucks you in. Sometimes I watch videos on Instagram or whatever of people and I don't even care or like what they're saying. I'm not even interested. I'm just sucked in by how delicious it feels to observe them like that. Now, imagine if that was the whole generated field. Imagine if every generator was happy, was satisfied, felt good. It wouldn't be so taxing on the other types. It would feel really good for them. It would allow them to use their gifts differently and be received differently. I'm very much still ruminating over this and these possibilities myself. So you see, generators The way we use our energy is so bizarre. Like, we're the only type who will work in a job that we hate for 8 hours a day and then be like, oh, that was so shit. To feel better, I need to use even more energy by working on my side business, or by going and playing cricket because I love it. You know, by spending time with my kids, like whatever that is. We just want to use our energy. I'm a generator, and I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in a world where like at least 20% more happy sacrals existed. We would create a healthier world, not just in regards to work, but, well, also for the other types that have to work in, like, we established the patterns, right? We established the manifestors did initially, govern the world, but now it's very much generated, like, consider the freaking idea of, like, 8-hour work days for everyone 5 times a week. Like, that's so bizarre. I hate it. I hate that idea. The other energy types must hate it too. Like, generators created that. Generators are the only ones that can do that. The only way that there's gonna be a lot of change is by a lot of generators. This is what I think. I think that we have a responsibility to be happy because our aura really affects everyone else so much, and we don't see it. We don't see it. I know I don't see it. I have an idea that it exists. I cannot see my impact personally. I'm a 4th line. I have no idea. Okay, so all done. The key takeaways from this video is, if you really understand the power of your sacral, the urgency to initiate disappears, right? We're generators. We have a responsibility to act like them. And that was really what the whole video was about. Whether it was like the multitasking, quitting after your plateaus, all of it. I feel like the main vibe here was just very much, rather than trying not to be like a generator and trying to be like a manifestor, what if you really... Oh, we have a siren and my open mind is just drifting away. What if we just changed the way that generators operated and we were like, we're gonna come in and kick ass? I think I'm done. I think I'm too distracted to talk anymore. Goodbye, everybody.